Hey, Randy Joe here, and welcome back to the channel, where if you've been following, we have recently listened to both of Beyonce's albums, Renaissance as well as Cowboy Carter, two albums that are part of what seems to be a trilogy, kind of tackling the idea of reclaiming or at least sort of bringing back these genres to the roots of the black individuals who created them. On Renaissance, it was a beautiful kind of dance disco LP that was extremely energetic and upbeat, whereas Cowboy Carter went to the roots of country music and also kind of took country in a direction that I think is much more bold and much more interesting than a lot of the country music we hear today in the mainstream. But today, we're going to throw things back a little bit further, and we're going to check out her 2016 album, Lemonade. Now, I remember when this album dropped, it was a pretty massive release. It had a visual album that was attached to it. However, I will not be reacting to the visual component today, as I just want to stick to the music primarily, and then after I've heard this album a few times over, I'll check out the visuals probably on my own, because I do like to hear the music purely undistracted on its own, in its own sort of space. I'm sure the visuals are fantastic, but that will be for another day, probably in my own time. So sorry if you were one of the comments in my last video asking for the visual component. And along with that, Lemonade is an album that tackles themes of being a black woman dealing with infidelity, as at the time Beyonce was dealing with Jay-Z's infidelity, especially in the mainstream media, kind of talking about it on a daily basis. It was a pretty massive controversy at the time. I've loved the last two Beyonce albums we checked out on the channel. They were fantastic. I'm still listening to them. Renaissance is my favorite so far, but Cowboy Carter as well has some great tracks on there, and I think it is really a fantastic country album in itself. But here with Lemonade, she dives in to a multitude of genres from what I've seen, and I'm excited to kind of hear the way she bends genres, the genre she dives into. I saw some people in the last video say that there's even a reggae cut on here, and I love me some good reggae, so I can't wait to hear what she has to offer. Without further ado, let's get into it. 13 songs, 45 minutes, because we're not going to be listening to the demo here. Sorry, we're going to leave that out. We'll close it out with Formation, as it seems like that is the entirety of the project. But kicking it off, here's Pray You Catch Me. I like the atmosphere of this one so far, and that just gentle synth.
You can taste the dishonesty, it's all over your breath as you pass it off so cavalier, but even that's a test, constantly aware.
Love the gentle piano work here. Great contrast.
I'm praying to catch you whispering.
I believe here she's perhaps speaking on the infidelity of Jay-Z.
I'm praying to catch you whispering. I'm praying nothing else.
Ooh, I love that gentle kind of synthy come down.
When it's only in my memory, it don't hit me quite the same. Praying to catch you whispering.
Oh,
I pray you catch me listening. I pray to catch you whispering.
hard not to compare to the two albums I've heard already, Renaissance and Cowboy Carter. But I have to say, this opener, certainly much more gradual, much more subtle. It's not an instant, sort of hard hitter like the opening to Renaissance and Cowboy Carter. But I'm loving the subtlety. I'm loving the R&B route here. I know she is obviously very well known for R&B. That's kind of how she got her come up. And I mean, she sounds great. Are we shocked? I like the emotional depth too that's coming with this. I like this one. It's really well paced as well. Love just the nice gradual sort of progression of it. Great opening track. Ooh, suspicious. Here's Hold Up. Oh, I like where this is going. Kind of mellow.
They don't love you like I love you. Slow down.
Ooh.
They don't love you like I love you. Back up. They don't love
I've heard this track before, only in passing, so I'm not too familiar with it. But
you like I love you. Step down. They don't love you like I love you. Can't you see that?
this one's got a bit of a reggae kind of dub flair to it as well,
No other man above you. What a wicked
which I
way
certainly
to treat the
dig.
girl that loves you. Oh, love. They don't love you like I love you. Oh, down. They don't love you like I love you. Something don't feel right because it ain't right, especially coming
Ooh.
up after midnight. I smell your secrets, and I'm not too perfect to ever feel this worthless. How did it come down to this? Scrolling through your calling.
I love the concept of this record so far. I really like the way it's kind of digging into the infidelity here.
I don't wanna lose my pride.
Lyrically.
Fuck me up a bitch. Know that I kept it sexy,
Very
and know I
in-depth.
kept it fun. There's something that I'm missing, maybe my head for one. What's worst, looking jealous or crazy? Jealous now. They used to hide from you, lie to you, but y'all know we were made for each other, so I find you and hold you down. Missing, say, hold up, they don't love you.
Love that delivery. It was kind of like a rap. Trying to remember what the word was, using reggae for their own form of rap. I believe it was it starts with a T. Toasting. Is that what it is? I think it's toasting. Kind of love the delivery there. Honestly, this is a oh, even though steel kind of sounds like steel pan in the background.
Step down, they don't love you like I love you. Can't you see there's no other man above you? What a wicked way to treat the girl that loves you. Hold up, they don't
Classic
love
themes
you
of
like
heartbreak
I love
are
you.
deep within
Slow
reggae.
down, they don't love you like I love you. It's such a shame you let this good love go to waste. I always keep the top tier, 5-star, sexy loving in the car, like make that wood, like
Ooh.
make that wood, highly like a boulevard. What's worse, looking jealous or crazy, jealous and crazy. Or like being walked all over lately, walked all over lately. I'd rather be.
Even like the jealous or crazy line. I mean, especially since, you know, when you're going through a situation such as infidelity, typically the one cheating, you know, when gets called out, calls you jealous or calls you crazy, likes to basically obviously gaslight and kind of belittle your accusation. I kind of like the way it's used here. Or maybe I'm looking too deep into it, but I like that. I like that lyric a lot.
Slow down, they don't love you like I love you. Back up, in the mirror, say what's up. What's up, what's up, what's up? I hop up the bed and get my swag on.
Love that deep bass.
In the mirror, say what's up. What's up, what's up, what's up?
It's like a shaker subwoofer type bass. Oh, the song's done. I was really vibing on that one. Loved the atmosphere of the track. Loved the reggae influence. Here's Don't Hurt Yourself with another legend. From one legend to the next here, we got Jack White on the track. White Stripes, incredible solo artist as well. Boarding House Reach, a must-listen-to LP. Don't Hurt Yourself is the name of this track. Interested to see, does Jack sing on this, or is he just playing the guitar? I'm excited. He's a great vocalist as well. The two of them together might be interesting. Oh. Are we going to get bluesy on this one? I wonder.
Who the fuck do you think I am? You ain't married to no average bitch boy.
Oh, even that vocal effect on her voice there. Very similar to what Jack White does. Quite a bit in his music. Kind of feels like a nice blend of their styles. Love this. Steady drum work. Oh. There's Mr. White. If this is Beyonce going into a much more rock focus, a bluesy kind of focus as well, this makes me excited for her next album in that trilogy I mentioned earlier, Renaissance, Cowboy Carter, and then the third part seeming to be rock and roll, a classic kind of rock tone. If this is the hint of what's to come, that'll be a huge treat. There's a lot of just a nice fiery energy on it. Very much a strong confidence, strong goddess-like image here. God, she's got a huge sense of fire in those vocals. She is just biting at us. And that confidence. We heard all of a Renaissance. We hear it here. Again, that goddess image. Love God herself. Love the way that's kind of quickly just slid in there.
This is your final warning. You know I give you life. If you try this shit again, you're gonna lose your wife.
If I was Jay-Z and I heard this song, I'd be frightened what this woman's capable of. Great track. Let's go into Sorry. Wow. Love the genre hopping we're doing on this LP. It's quite uniform. A bit more of a kind of poppy club hit. Not a huge fan of this chorus, to be honest. Not even a huge fan of this track in general. But I'm not much of I would say I'm not much of a dance club kind of guy, but that's not true. I love Renaissance. I do like how mellow this is getting in the end. But it's not my favorite track. It's actually my least favorite so far. Did not care at all for the chorus. Found that one to be a little bit more repetitive than anything we've heard so far. And also, it's just not my vibe. Which, with an album where we are seemingly hopping from genre to genre, I'm not too surprised there's going to be a couple tracks, maybe, that just don't quite hit me as hard as others. But I think that's just the nature of things. 6 Inch is the next track here, with none other than The Weeknd, who I actually didn't even know was on this record before today. I don't know if I know this one. Quite familiar with The Weeknd, as you could tell. Huge fan of the trilogy he's been working on. So let's see 6 Inch with The Weeknd. Have I heard this one? I wonder. Got a bit of a heaviness to it. Ooh.
Stacking money everywhere she goes. Pesos out of Mexico.
You know what though? These two, both arguably the best R&B singers of the 2010s, maybe the 2000s. I mean, The Weeknd came later, but still, the two of them on one track. That should be interesting, because is one going to outdo the other? Is that even possible? I like their contrast. She's going to a much deeper regimen here. Ooh, hold on. Walk On By Isaac Hayes being sampled here? Am I crazy? Ready? Yeah, Walk On By Isaac Hayes. Clearly the sample here at play. Incredible track. Great use of the sample here. Just the slowing down of it. Kind of makes it sexy, you know? I'm liking this song a lot. Those heavy, like, horns kind of remind me of Jesus. I love the smokiness of this track and the... This is a track similar to The Weeknd's. I think it's called The Morning. Both tracks, I could be wrong here, but it seems like here we are speaking on a working girl, to put it, you know, in YouTube save terms. Honestly, no shame to that. It's an occupation as much as any. And a very confident character this one seems to be. Certainly higher class. I love those backup vocals too. So angelic. Oh my god. That Walk On By sample there here. This is the best song on the LP for me so far. It could be that sample. Could be that sample doing a lot of heavy lifting, but what Beyonce does here. The Weeknd, a very light feature on this one, but that's okay. He's not stealing the show here from Miss Beyonce. And that sample, that Isaac Hayes sample, I got chills. You can't see it. I'm wearing a long sleeve. But the album Hot Buttered Soul by Isaac Hayes, Walk On By, the song off that one, being used here, and the way it's so effectively used as we get to the end of this track. That climactic finish of that track, which is a 12-minute epic on Hot Buttered Soul. That build-up being used here so perfectly to tell this story of what seems to be a high-class working girl. Honestly, I love it. I think this is a perfectly executed track. Great atmosphere. Very smoky. This track's insane. This is my favorite track. Deserves a lot more streams, in my opinion. But let's keep going. Here's Daddy Lessons. Get a little jazzy. Jazzy, a little country too. Loving the country flair on here. Honestly, would have worked just as easily on Cowboy Carter. I like this tease of what's to come for her career. It's just a nice country cut. Man, the genres and how well and uniform they still are. Yeah, very diverse. This has a nice, just steady clapping beat here. Ooh. I think that's a saxophone. It's nice and brassy. Is she gonna kill her man, perhaps? Again, sticking to the themes of kind of being used, being manipulated by a man, the infidelity, still running deep in the lyrics. Damn. Halfway through the LP. That's cute. Halfway through the LP, this is a great album. No surprises, I'm sure, to those watching. I mean, I had tons of people saying this was her best album. But I mean, a lot of people said that about Renaissance. A lot of people said that about Cowboy Carter. A lot of people said that about her self-titled 2013 album, which I did a review on many years back. Point is, she's obviously, you know, one of those artists where debating the best album from them becomes kind of pointless when they have so many great albums. Beyonce, certainly a legend. And this album, I don't want to call it yet, but so far it's a very tight listen, and I would not be surprised if this goes on to be my favorite Beyonce album. But I do really enjoy Renaissance as well for those dance vibes. Here's Love Drought. Let's keep it going. I just love the nice blend of styles and genres on this LP. Ooh. Quite the atmosphere here. I feel like we're floating with this synth. I really like these lyrics. Beautiful performance here. Love that echo. Oh my goodness. I feel like we're floating at sea with this one. Love that deep buried drum there. That clap. And this chorus, one of the best on the album. Just perfectly performed. Love that main synth throughout. Super just like atmosphere. Great vibe on this whole track. I feel like we're ascending with that chorus. Let's just keep it going. Sand Castles is this one. Man, the emotion in this one. This is a very like palpable feeling track. One of the lower streams on the album. I'm assuming because of how hard and heavy of a listen that one was. That is a beautiful that might also be one of my favorites. That is, oh my goodness. Sandcastles. Give it up for that track. That track is incredible. The emotion, the depth, the vocals, that performance, just the simple piano to back it all up. Nothing being overdone. Even the backup vocals, they come in at the end and they're there just to elevate. They don't overthrow anything. Sandcastles is just an incredibly emotionally rich track, and definitely the hardest hitting track here. Wow, what a heavy listen. Let's keep it going. Let's go to Forward with James Blake. I should say 1 minute and 20 seconds. This is a short one. So, you know, let's see what he has to offer. But man, Sandcastles, that's a hard track to swallow. But great. And we're just going right into Forward. James.
best fit first just in case.
Really continuing from off the last track.
It's time to listen, it's time to fight forward. Now we can hold doors open for a while.
Oh. Love that weird mutilation here as it all kind of falls apart. Forward, continue Sandcastles. I like that it's kind of separated from Sandcastles because they are very distinct in terms of performance. Sandcastles, though, you know, Beyonce really hit pretty hard, and James Blake kind of just continues where that left off. Not as effective, I would say, as Beyonce, but, you know, it's Beyonce at the end of the day. Let's go to Freedom with Mr. Kendrick Lamar, the legend himself. A lot of great collabs on this record. Are we going to get some rapping Beyonce on this one? This sounds familiar. Oh my god. Oh. And very uplifting. Anthemic. Even a touch of gospel. Man, what a peak and what a whiplash after Sandcastles. Incredible energy on this one. Super impactful, anthemic. It seems to be empowering to black people and black women, perhaps. Either way, it's very uplifting. Here's Kendrick coming in. No stranger to black activism, Mr. Kendrick Lamar.
10 Hail Marys, I meditate for practice. Channel 9 News tell me I'm moving backwards. Jump in the aqueducts, fire hydrants and hazardous smoke alarms on the back of us. But mama, don't cry for me, rap for me, try for me, live for me, breathe for me, sing for me, honestly guiding me. I can be more than I gotta be, stole from me, lied to me, nation hypocrisy, code on me, driving me wicked. My spirit inspired me like, yeah. Open correctional gates in the high desert. Open our mind as we cast away oppression. Open the streets and watch our beliefs. And when they carve my name inside the concrete, I pray it forever. Freedom, freedom, I can't move.
First, it fits perfectly. He fits perfectly in the theme. That title drop. Smooth with it. Gotta say, Freedom, incredible, empowering track. And on the topic of Kendrick here, who nails his verse and thematically fits perfectly in the track, and no surprise there. Reminds me, in terms of the uplifting nature and the anthemic nature of it, reminds me of Kendrick Lamar's All Right off of To Pimp a Butterfly. Kind of share the same kind of ethos. Both great. Both have a very climactic, sound to it. Very triumphant. Let's keep going into All Night.
Your lies. And true love never has to hide.
Instrumentally, this LP has a strong oomph of power to the instruments. very pretty. Works as a closer, honestly. Could have been a great closer. Love those horns. Everything about this track feels like a closer, and yet it's not. It just has a really nice, strong sense of finality to it. Almost like a roll credits type. Love those horns. Nice deep bass.
They say true love's the greatest weapon
That it is.
to win the war caused by pain. But every diamond has
I love that really stark strum.
too pure to watch it chip on. So many people I know that they just trying to touch you. Gets up and rub up and fill up.
A lot of different sort of avenues this track has gone into. Those horns, every time they come in. This track is insane.
Missed you, my love.
Just beautiful. Has a very, again, triumphant sort of sound to it. Love the avenues it goes into. At 5 minutes, it's the longest on the record, and it does really feel like a grand kind of epic finale, especially with those horns. I love those horns when they came in. Let's go into Formation, which is the final track. I wonder, 338 million streams on this one. I've probably heard it before. I know Hold Up, I've heard kind of glimpses of in the past, so I feel like I've heard Formation. Let's get into it. Will it slow things down? I wonder if this album will end on a slower note. Curious. I feel like it'll kind of come down with how kind of epic the heights have been so far. A huge sense of pride already right off the bat. Pride in herself, pride in her family, pride in her culture. Full confidence, full pride. Love the way that kind of wraps up the themes, the ideas of the record. She's confident in herself and her people and her family and her culture. It's a great closer, an incredible closer that just perfectly encapsulates the concept of Lemonade. But I have to say, I'm a little shocked that that's the closer. I feel like All Night had more closer energy to it. But Formation, beat-wise, let's go back and hear that very bizarre. Very few artists can make that work. Beyonce certainly does. But as I was listening to it, I was like, man, this track, she could have doubled the length, made it like a posse cut, invited a bunch of other artists on it, and I feel like it would be so incredibly massive on top of how big it already is, because I could just see quite a few rappers jumping on this thing and really making that beat work even harder. But the fact that Beyonce here keeps it to herself, I mean, hey, that adds more power to her and certainly makes her feel even more powerful and confident. A great closer. This is a great album. Let's just talk on it. We are done now. We're done the listening portion. I could have honestly listened to a lot more of this. We're not going to check out the demo because it's a demo and it's a bonus track. I typically don't cover bonus tracks on the channel. It is a demo for the track Sorry, which is my least favorite of the album, I would say. On a first listen, at least, Sorry is the one that sticks out to me as the weak link here. But the rest of the record, phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. I feel like a good chunk of these tracks, I was saying that it was my favorite track so far. And then a track would come along and outdo the next. 6-inch with The Weeknd, incredible. Amazing sample of Walk On By, The Weeknd. as well as a pretty light performance on here, but he does, I feel like, do a great contrast to the deeper regiment that Beyonce's singing compared to his much more higher pitched kind of falsetto that he typically does. Jack White, also a great feature, really shows a rock Beyonce and what she's capable of there. Cannot wait for the continuation of her trilogy she's been doing. Hold Up offered up those reggae vibes that I have been wanting from Miss Beyonce, and we got it in full effect there. I loved it. Thought it was great. Huge reggae fan, so that was right up my alley. Kendrick Lamar, that track, echoed the sentiment of his track All Right, and it was just as powerful, just as uplifting, just as beautiful, conceptually and thematically. Then we have tracks like Sandcastles, which most of this album is pretty uplifting, but Sandcastles hits you right in the heart. I felt like, that was a track where I was kind of holding back. I feel like if I was off camera, if I'm hearing this in the future, I would not be surprised if I shed many a tears to that one, because her performance there is incredibly palpable, beautiful, emotional. It's a great track. On a first listen, I'm going to call it now. Of the 3 Beyonce albums I've covered on the channel, not counting her self-titled from 2013, it's been a while since I've listened to that one in full. I really should check it out again. But of the Beyonce albums I've heard, Lemonade, it's my favorite. It's definitely my favorite so far. I love the genre hopping that she does. I love what she does with each style. I think she is just an incredible artist, always has been. But Lemonade is the one that I feel like is her tightest listen. It's 45 minutes, and yet it does so much in that time. And I think the themes kind of addressed throughout are done in such a depth and such an effective way that I can't help but feel like this is just a near perfect record. And before we completely close out the video, I've been saying in the past couple of videos, down below in the description, there's a link to a GoFundMe to assist my sister-in-law in this time of need. She has been diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. It's a really tough time for my brother, as well as her, of course. So if you have some extra money you don't mind donating, sending her way to really help out, it would be greatly appreciated. But again, nobody is obligated. I'm just throwing it out there. But that does it for today's video. If you like this video, please hit like and subscribe to follow along and listening to more records. Now, I did say that Lemonade would probably be the last Beyonce album we would cover on the channel, and I'm still sticking to that, but it's the last Beyonce album I'm covering as of right now. I'm not ruling out the possibility that one day I'll get back to some of her other albums. If I listen to another Beyonce album anytime soon, or when I do inevitably listen to another Beyonce album, I should say, I will certainly do a reaction, assuming that's still the content I'm going to continue doing, because, you guys have been really positive in the comments. You guys have been really kind, and I really do appreciate the huge following that has come in from the Beyonce videos. But again, there are currently no other plans to cover more Beyonce albums at this very moment, because I do want to dive into Pink Floyd and Bjork's discographies, as well as new releases throughout the year. I want to really primarily focus on new albums through the year, because I feel like last year I was a little too light with the new releases. But of course, I will still honor and respect the legends such as Pink Floyd and Bjork, and many other discographies that I plan to dive into. But again, Beyonce, that's it for now. So my apologies. If you want more Beyonce, we're just going to put a pin in it until a later date, in which, if I do listen to more, I'll check out the album here. And of course, when she does release that final album in what seems to be the trilogy, Renaissance, Cowboy Carter, and possibly the rock and roll album that people are believing it to be, I of course will react to that on this channel, because why wouldn't I? As always, my name is Randy Joe. I appreciate you watching. This has been a fun ride, and I'm signing off.